Welcome guys to a different type of video for the channel. As some of you may or may not know, uh, I have a technical degree in video game programming. and recently I have been inspired with job instability to get back into programming a bit, and decided that I would sort of take inspiration from a series and a series on YouTube, and sort of do my own take on it. Of course, a large portion of that, like, I think the series is really well done, and I didn't want to copy any of their type of stuff. I mean, you'll see similarities and stuff like that, but I didn't want to do things how they were doing it, just to make sure that I wasn't, basically stealing the concept, ideas, or views for that matter. And I'll give credit to those in a minute. Again, I mainly wanted to do this as a passion project because I was really inspired to do it through that video series. So let's go ahead and take a look at that video series. It's by a channel called Lost Marbles, right there with 120,000 subscribers. Nice job. And this is Marble Kingdoms is the playlist, and the series name, I guess. This is the 29th video in it. If you watch the playlist of videos, you can sort of see how, like, the development of this series has really evolved over time. And so this is 29. It's not even the most recent one, but it's actually where I'm at in watching the series, because it's, I don't know, it's relaxing sometimes to watch marbles duke it out with weapons. And so you'll see on the right hand side, this is the main map, and on the left side you have a battlefield map, which only appears when two marbles on the right side collide. Now, each of these squares is like a castle or a settlement, and so then they generate more units and they go into armies, and when the armies collide with either each other or with a settlement, then a battle happens, and this appears on the left, making this not as focused. So then, if we played this for a second, and I should probably mute it, you'll see that the marbles just spin around, and if the weapon hits the person, they take damage, or if they hit a vulnerable part, because, not the non-helmet part, they die. And so I think that's a really cool concept. The other thing you'll notice is, like, numbers appearing. If they get enough kills, they level up, and they actually heal a little bit too, which again I think is a wonderful concept. And we're not going to go into the State Farm commercial, because I wasn't logged into YouTube there. But yeah, so that's the general concept idea that I wanted to try to recreate with a different take, right? And so first things first, we needed to generate a campaign map. And so I didn't want to do a 2D map like they were doing. I decided, let's do like a tile map instead. And so I did start originally with a 2D tile map in a 3D world space, I guess, just because it made sense to me at the time for some reason. Anyways, since then we've gone full 3D, still a tile map, so let's check it out. You can enter a seed here. Well, I could enter a seed here if I wanted to. The default seed's 180 because, came in 180. But if we, gotta hit play first. If we go ahead and hit generate land, we can generate our tile map, and there's a little ding there, though you guys can't hear that. Here, let's press it again. And it didn't ding for you guys again. That's interesting. Anyways, so it generates a map. It generates a water border, and then it uses a double layer of Perlin noise, to get a little technical for people, to then generate elevation and moisture levels. Moisture levels impact things like the forest, which is this darker green, and the desert, which is this yellowish sand-looking sort of spot back here. Elevation, of course, then determines the elevation of the hexes along with mountain areas and then water areas. And then all water is then set to the highest point that water can be. So really you won't find any like high elevation lakes, right? It's all going to be down low, which I think is fine for the purpose of the project so far. I did have to change a few things with the project because I realized it wasn't going to be I had to set some settings because of what I needed to be temporary working before just burning myself out trying to solve the end issues in the beginning times, right? You don't teach a kid how to multiply before you get through addition. So that's what I wanted to focus on. I wanted to focus on addition before we get to the multiplication. So here it is a basic system for the terrain generation. We can expand it, I'll show you that in a little bit, but before we do, I wanted to actually start civilization. This would be like the start of one of the Marble Kingdom's civilizations. Of course, we don't have marbles, we have hexagons, and so let's go ahead and start that, and let me explain what's happened so far, because it happened quickly, right? So far, and I can't even move you guys now, we had a hex spawn, and these guys are placeholders because I don't do art well, so I need time to do art over I need time, basically. And so basically what happens at the start of colonization, civilization, it spawns colonists for each faction, and so those colonists get placed randomly throughout the map that you've provided, and then they look to see if they're immediately touching water. If they are, they go one away, so that's why like blue, green, and I believe yellow all spend an extra turn moving away from water in this case, and then teal and red plant down immediately, and that's their first turn, is just colonization, I guess, settling down. The next turn, the city, which now becomes capital city because it's the first city in the faction, will then try to spawn a party, which are what these guys are, in one of the immediate surrounding hexes. And by default right now, each party comes with one unit, and it consists of a hunter class unit, which doesn't mean anything right now, but it will in the future. We'll have party diversity and such. That being said, it spawns a hunter unit and then ends its turn because that's all it can do this turn. After that, when it comes back to its turn, it's going to take down, spawning another unit, and then it's also going to move its current units. The other thing that happens there, that has happened, is when you place a settlement, which in this case is a city, and we'll have 3 types of settlements later on, and I'll explain that here in a minute. When you place a settlement, you get to try and claim territory based on the type of settlement that you get. And so a city right now has a radius of 30, so when the red floats down, because red's first, always, when it placed down, it claimed 30 hexes around itself. And then that's radius, not diameter, which I should probably make it diameter. So I guess it'll be 15 here in a minute when I change it. That's a bit much. 30 is a bit much. I mean, even 10 I think is a pretty good size. Anyways, so that's why the borders are here, is because it claimed territory, and then of course as other factions settle, the strength of the claim is dependent on the distance from location, and then also the maximum distance that location can lay claim to. So it's like a percentage of claim. So you're always going to get like 100% claim here, but all the way out here you'll see like a little neutral tone zone, which is why like the border's gray and red. So this spot would be like 1% red claim because it's the max distance from the settlement that it could be. Versus like here, you might have higher claim red here, but you have higher claim teal here, so teal claims it. And so that's what's happened so far. You'll also notice numbers above the parties, and that's of course the unit composition inside the party. So there's one hunter. As these guys move around, they'll pick up other parties of the same faction, and then so their numbers will go and get increased. So let's go ahead and run this for just a little bit here. And I'm gonna move, now that I can, over to up here, because I think it's an interesting area to do. So you see that green combined with another one, and that's why there's now 2 there. But as we come over here and we can kind of angle, you'll see that that yellow one attacked this city, and then it left, and then this one attacked again, and it actually took over. So now this area should be yellow, but it's not. I just realized that it's completely not. Huh. Anyways, that's good to know. I have some theories about that now. Anyways, after that, why is it now red? Because red took teal. Which, by the way, when your capital gets taken, all of the people die. So there's no coming back. And right now there is no expansion into additional settlements, but in the future there will be. It's interesting that the border is not updating properly, but I think that has to do with how we convert the cities into factions, and then how we record the... Oh, I've made a wonderful seat up here. Can we just boop and boop? There we go. That's probably because of how we convert the cities and how we record the claim per hex. So each hex has a claim strength, and then the faction, of course. And we probably need to delete that if the faction no longer exists. Which is good. I mean, just something we gotta think about. Other known issues is the length. We get to a stage here where nothing really happens. Like, that was a very conflict-oriented start, and then we just start to taper out, and we'll go a long while with these primary colors here before anything additional happens. Then one of the other things that I need to work on, or would like to work on, is these big numbers. They combine and then they just don't do anything because they don't ever touch anyone. And so I need some way that they like get more work done. Actually, that one just got whittled down so fast by red, but it probably saved its city, honestly. So anyways, let's pause there on the simulation. We're gonna go into game manager settings, and we're gonna increase this by a little bit. And I just noticed the weirdness in my settings. So we're gonna increase size, and then we are going to increase the number of factions, and then you know what? Let's just see what happens. So of course there are city settings in the Inspector of Unity Um, that allows me to change the generation of the terrain. We're still using the same seeds. You'll notice a portion of this is still the same map. I just increased it, which is why the chunk generation is a little bit larger. And of course, as the more we generate, the more we will the more we generate, the more slower it will be. Though honestly, it shouldn't really take this long. Ever since I added territories in, and the calculation for territories, it does take a little bit longer. But still, it's still pretty fast. It's just not as fast. And of course, you know, the limit I like to push is like a 300 by 300 map. What we're generating right now is 100 by 100. The previous one was 50 by 50. And so of course that's like 50 hexagons across. It's not any actual measurement distance besides hexagons. And then 50 hexagons up, of course we're doing odd row is offset. So every odd row you're over by a half hexagon. That's just one of the ways that that hexagon generation works. There's actually a really great resource, if I can think of the name. Let's see here. There's a great resource called redblobgames.com, and they have a whole page dedicated to hexagon grids, whether it's pathfinding, generation, coordinate systems, line drawing, ranges, even fields of view. Like it's some intense stuff. And it looks like they actually just recently updated it in March of 25, which is pretty cool because I found this system back in 2016 when I was still going to college, and it was a great log system there, and it's just amazing. Anyways, I'll try and link that in the description as well if you guys want some very coding and math-oriented reading. But here's our map. You'll notice that we have this new biome. Of course, this is snow, of course, because on top of your mountains should be snow. So this is our actually highest elevation range. And so what we can do now, we've turned up the factions up to 10, which I haven't actually done this yet, so I'm hoping it all works pretty well. We've turned it up the factions. It looks like most of them spawned up north, which is a little disappointing. I would love for some more of them to be populated down here. With them colonizing off the bat, it's a little choppy. But then there we go, and we can see that everyone's going through their steps. Now, I do have a delay in here. So it's like a 1/10 of a second delay between each faction's turn. And so the faction takes its entire turn going through all of its unit moves and then going through all of its settlement moves. And so new units actually don't move until the following turn that they're spawned on. And then they just head in a direction until they hit something. Or die, I guess. And then when they hit something, they choose a new random location. It's not like a ricochet. They choose a new random location and they head in that direction. That being said, one of the things that I want to implement next is them to only move around the territory that they are a part of until they hit a certain threshold of unit count. So I want it to be that they can't leave their territory until they hit like 6 units, right? And of course, that means that the faction will be more limited towards their area until they can get combined enough to then leave. And the density will encourage that. The issue that I feel like I'm going to run into with this, and Pink's already gone, Orange destroyed pink. Anyone else? Purple's up here. Red's got an interesting territory here, expanding that way. But that's because yellow's even further left and white is quite a ways down. It's interesting that orange took pink. Of course, again, the border got rid of the pink, which is a good sign. But we also need to update to orange. So maybe I need to call that function twice. Or am I calling the right function? Who knows? Anyways, I worry that if I limit the movement of those units, that then this area, let's take teal for instance, this area will be populated with a lot of lower number teals, right? Which means that in order for a enemy to get in, they have to go through a higher density population, which, I mean, makes sense, but I feel like it will just extend the simulation further before getting that one winner. So, of course, the other thing that I want to add is expansion. You know, this is great. They have territory. What's territory good for? Well, nothing right now. It just shows the territory you're in control of. I want to add resources so that your territory and the resources that it's in control of helps you spawn more units or maybe better units. You know, different variations of units. But I also want it to be able to increase the rate of your spawning by having a larger territory. And of course, you need to expand that territory by further colonization. So I need some way of maybe the number of hexagons you have increases the rate that you can spawn a colonist or something, and then that colonist can go and find a neutral hex or just distance and then colonize again. I did say earlier that there was going to be 3 settlement types. We're going to have cities, like we have here. We're going to have towns, which will be the next stage down, and then we'll have villages, which will be the stage under that. And towns and villages are going to be less than cities, of course, as I kind of just said. I'm going off book here. And so a village will have less, or sorry, a town will have less of a territory claim than a city, and a village will have less than a town, of course. I think it's like by half each time. So a town's actually pretty small at this point. Or maybe it's just a third. So we'll want to figure out where the colonists will try to colonize, I suppose. And then what sort of effect that has. As I mentioned, I do want to do resources, and generation of resources will be tricky as well. Kind of like with the colonists, like you can spawn in resources. The issue is that if you do it like that, you know, you might end up, holy cow, you have a 23. You might end up with, you know, all of your resources in one part of the map, sort of like the factions in this one, right? That 28 could do something if you know, got out of the stupid donut. What else do we want to do? Islands. Islands is an issue at this moment. I've had to stick to one giant island, or one continent, as I think I've labeled it in the code, because right now I don't have a way of the hexagons to traverse water. I would like to do a kind of path, so we'll have like a dotted line that goes like from this island to this island, and it'll have like a dotted, not a straight path, I don't want a straight path, but maybe like a deformed path a little, and that way Sorry, didn't mean to bring up Spotify there. And that way, like, we can connect islands and then they have a pathway to go, but it means that, you know, we'll have a lot of war at sea because it's the only way to go to the other faction. That being said, if a hexagon has to then hit one particular, if a party has to hit one particular hexagon in order to traverse overseas, that means the island's going to get real packed before we start seeing a large number of parties head over, right? So at that point, we may need to upgrade the direction. This is just chaos. we may need to upgrade the AI of the parties to be able to think more logically and be able to take more action, which is something I've thought about doing, because it would be interesting to see, like, if you set up like aggression parameters, how quickly a war would be over. But I think I can't really play with that until we get resources in. So it won't be until we can actively state that, you know, having a city near a forest is going to make, you know, wood production better, and then therefore, you know, expansion easier, or you know, settling near iron is going to make weapons better and therefore your units stronger, or maybe walking through sand it causes nutrition, or not nutrition, attrition, and therefore, you know, your units may randomly die as it crosses every 5th desert, right, or something like that. And it's just those tiny rules that, like, I don't want to dive too deeply into immediately, because I want to be able to set up larger systems first and then start diving down into the specifics. But yeah, that's kind of where things are at. Right now I've been playing with the 50-50 and only 5 factions because it's easier to keep track than this chaos. I mean, we can move around here. You can see, like, they spawn pretty close. I mean, this has got to be only like 10 points away. And so really, like, if this was if this was supposed to be more of a diplomatic scenario, red and black are either best friends or enemies, right? And very hostile enemies. Nemesis. I'm gonna go with Nemesi because it sounds cooler. I know it's wrong, but it sounds cooler. Nemesi. They're gonna be Nemesi of each other. And so, you know, they should be fighting each other quite often. But of course, I mean, like, red's really close to a lot of people, so red should be taken out pretty quickly. Oh, white took blue. Interesting. That being said, until the last city's taken, it's anyone's game. Technically, if orange took this city, or green took this city, for instance, this one should become green, but it wouldn't destroy white. If green took this city, this orange capital, orange would be destroyed. Even though it has another one, it right now it only depends on your capital, and then if your capital is destroyed, the faction loses. So again, it's updating party behavior to defend your capital, or go back to help repair your capital. Maybe that's a future thing. You know, maybe depending on how many forest hexes you have, you know, increases repair rate or something. Who knows? But that's sort of the state of the game. I'm gonna need to go get more coffee, and I hope you guys have a good one. If you want to see more of these videos, let me know in the comments section below. And of course, if you do want to see more, you should probably consider subscribing so you can, you know, get that on your feed, and then ring that bell if you want even notifications about it. But again, this is just like a passion project. It's not really supposed to be a game. It's not, you know, I don't plan on really releasing it unless there's some crazy demand. That'd be lunacy in my eyes. But yeah, been having fun with this. So until next time, guys, I think I'm probably going to do like weekly updates because I'm working on it so much. That red just passed through that orange base. What's your health at right now, dude? Your health's still at 3. Interesting. Anyways, take care, guys. Consider subscribing. Bye.